One of our graduates asked this question. Personal development tells us to forget about the past and stay in the present. Whereas when we're doing the 7 steps to reprogramming yourself, we are actually going into the past and erasing it. How do these two methods converge, or are they conflicting? How do I balance the two? What a great question from Hannah. Thank you for asking. You're actually not in conflict. You're just taking a more advanced approach. And what I mean by that is, for the longest time, we believed that the world was measurable only physically, and we follow Newtonian's laws of physics, which say every action has an equal and opposite reaction. An object in motion will remain in motion unless something else acts upon it, and so on. But then as time went on, we realized that there's more to it than that, that everything's actually made of energy. And then if you shift the energy, you can shift reality. So it's much more internal versus external. And that's really what we're talking about. Personal development tells you, don't be stuck in the past, don't be stuck in the future, stay in this present moment. But then the past and the future pull at you, they tug at you. And then you constantly live a life of trying not to get pulled away and making yourself stay present. But you shouldn't have to make yourself stay present, because then you're just thinking about being present instead of actually being in the present. So how do we resolve that problem? We go beyond the let me use my willpower to overcome the past and be present, into let's find out what's causing me to be taken out of the present and permanently fix it, so I can automatically and effortlessly be in the present, which is really what you're doing when you're using the 4 major tools of transformation. The first one you learn is the 7 steps to reprogramming yourself. You see, when you're in the present and then something happens that upsets you, that triggers you, you stop being in the present. You start being the programming of your past. You might even look like you're 7 years old if that's when the programming got installed in your unconscious mind, if that's where the upset began. If you erase that upset permanently, you'll return back to the present. If you don't, you might be able to deactivate it by thinking positive, putting it away, and whatever other things you can do to make it go away for now, and then come back to the present, and then it will come up and trigger you and take you out of the present again. And so you'll constantly be having to watch out for that particular button and all the other buttons that you have for the rest of eternity, not just the rest of your life. No, the rest of eternity, because these programs and patterns you have in your unconscious mind are with you forever, as your mind and spirit are immortal. And so if you can then go inside and erase the button itself so it can never be pushed, you move towards an effortless experience of being present. And so we're actually doing what personal development wants us to do, what mindfulness wants us to do, what the power of now wants us to do, which is to be present. But we're doing it in such a way that's more advanced, because we're talking about giving up a life of constantly struggling with our willpower to overcome the unconscious programming, and rather just erasing the unconscious programming so there is no struggle. You're just automatically present. Now, I wrote this in the answer, and one of our students wrote, boom, like mic drop, because that's hot. What I want to say about this is it's not an easy path necessarily. It sounds easy because the results create ease in life, ongoing happiness, waking up happy every day, being happy all day long, not getting triggered at all, because you're clearing and clearing and clearing all these triggers until you can't find any. Wouldn't that be something? You might go weeks or months without finding a button or getting upset by anything. That sounds too good to be true. Yes, but to get to that point takes a lot of hard work. Now, that's the part that people run away from. They get scared of looking inside and finding that stuff. They'd rather just pretend that everything's fine, do the spiritual bypass, and be here now, but actually not fully here now, because the pain at the past is still there, distorting reality. You're always seeing life through a pair of glasses called your belief systems. And you have conscious and unconscious belief systems. Your unconscious belief systems distort reality. They filter everything coming through to match those belief systems. And what if they're made of pain? Well, then the pair of glasses you're wearing is dark. It might even be crap colored. You think I'm kidding, but people are often seeing crap when really there's nothing there but love, because their old pain from the past is distorting reality. So they're not present, even though they feel like they're present, because actually they're present living in a lie, seeing life through filters, many filters. Obviously, there's not just one unconscious program distorting your reality. There's thousands of them. So how can you be fully present when you're seeing the entirety of reality through all these old filters and you don't know which ones are distorting reality and which ones are not? Most of them you're not aware of. In fact, almost none of them are you aware of. As you become aware through wonderful personal development means like mindfulness, you can start to get rid of them if you learn how to get rid of them. Until you do, you're constantly living in a state of hoping you can become aware of your filters so that you're not distorting reality and actually seeing it as it is while being in the present. What's the value of being in the present if the present you're seeing isn't very accurate? Now, don't get overwhelmed, because that's actually another program that we can erase. Just know that if you're watching this video, you're probably getting very close to or are ready to learn how to start removing these filters from your view of life and moving into a state of being present effortlessly. You shouldn't have to think about being present. You shouldn't have to think about being present. You ought to just be present automatically, naturally, effortlessly. And that's what we're talking about, is how to do that. And one of the three major steps of being in the zone or being in the present at all times is to erase the buttons that get triggered. Because when you get upset, you're not in the present anymore. Now you're in the upset. You're in the past, actually. And if you're afraid about the future, you're also triggered and therefore not in the present. If you're worried about the future, how can you be in the present? But the worry is the problem, not the future. We think the future is the problem. One of my clients, she said, Arnoux, I'm so afraid. I don't know how I'm going to pay my rent. And I said, no, you're not afraid because you don't know how you're going to pay your rent. You don't know how you're going to pay your rent because you're afraid. And she grabbed my shoulders and she looked me in the eye and she said, you need to remind me of that every day, or I need you to remind me of that every day. Because we forget sometimes that our fear distorts the future and distorts reality and manifests itself. Isn't that one of the laws of the universe, that fear attracts itself? That's the law of attraction, just said differently. So if you're living in fear but pretending you're in the present because you're pushing the fear away with a glass of wine or a cigarette or a big cookie or chocolate pie or whatever you're doing to make yourself feel better, you're still not in the present. You're still living in a fear-based future. Same thing could be said about other things you're thinking about that are upsetting you about the possible future. The future is not necessarily written. There's just many possibilities, and some maybe are much stronger than others. And so as you learn to erase the old programming, and as you do that, you'll find yourself more and more in the present automatically, because you're less and less triggered. You have less buttons to get pushed, and so you don't get triggered as often. Or sometimes you'll go a whole day or a whole week. I remember the first time I went a whole day without getting triggered at all. Nothing upset me for one day. I was just happy the whole day. That's going to happen to you. And you're going to realize, if you really pay attention, that you were present that whole day because nothing took you out. And trying to force yourself to be present is like classical physics. I'm going to throw this rock as far as I can. But the quantum physics model is I can teleport this rock anywhere I want in the universe because I'm operating at the quantum level, the energy-based level, where everything is actually formed and created, not in the result level. If you want to have bigger fruit on your favorite tree in your orchard, you don't go and inject the fruit with drugs and steroids or things to make the fruit bigger. You put fertilizer and good water at the root of the tree, which then causes bigger fruit. So if you want to be present more often, don't try to force yourself to be present. Get rid of the things that stop you from being present, and then you'll be present. And isn't that really what we're talking about? So there isn't a conflict between personal development and doing the 7 steps to reprogramming yourself and other tools that erase the past and negative pain from the past. They're actually very much in alignment. In order to balance the two, practice thinking positive throughout the day, and when you notice that you're upset, notice it, don't stuff it, don't push it away, don't run away from it, don't pretend it's not there. Grab onto it and rip it out like a weed out of the garden permanently, and watch yourself become more and more effortlessly present. My name is Arnoux Goran. I look forward to talking with you.